There is nothing but buffs in patch 13.7 for TFT, which is odd because this is going to be the World Championship patch. But as you can see from the preview right here, the only section with anything in it are just buffs. So let's see what they're buffing. They normally do this when they're happy with the power level of all the strong comps right now. So they're just giving a little love to everything beneath that. So Conquer, Vex, Camille, Ziggs, Gangplank, Nunu, Swain, Elise, Jinx, Malzahar, and 9 different augments are going to be buffed. I'm most surprised about Elise because she's already the most played champion by far. We can see right here, teamfight.lol sort by play rate, and Elise, no one's even close to her. But they're doing it in an interesting way, as we'll find out in just a minute. So we're going to go over all the changes and see how they're going to be affecting the meta. And of course, the meta snapshot will be out on Friday, as it is every single week. And of course, this patch is coming out tomorrow on March 5th. Now let's go over some system changes. I don't know what this is about, but new content detected, information not found, Tactician's Crown patch detected, impact set to low, frequency set to ultra low. So I'm guessing this means that the new set is probably coming out soon, so look out for that. And this current patch, I'm guessing they're saying that it's not going to change all that much, but let's see what they are. Let's be the judge of that. You always got to verify. And let's look at traits first. Conquer stat increase per cash out 5 to 8%. Pretty decent buff there. Conquers were always a situational comp, and this one makes it slightly less situational. A lot of people ask me, like, when should I be going for this? And it's like, if you can win streak with Conquer early, of course it's going to be good. And if you can't, of course it's going to be bad. But it's pretty hard to just guarantee a win streak, right? So maybe they need a little more, and that's why they buffed it up a little bit. 1 cost units, Vex ability damage is going to be buffed up at 1, 2, 3, and 4-star by 30, I believe. The 1-star's up by 20. And then the secondary damage is going to be buffed up across the board too. Vex always hasn't felt great. When I play her in Rebels, yeah, I use her as an item holder. When I play her in Renata reroll, if I have to choose between Vex and Morgana as my secondary carry, I don't really care. I think Morgana's a little bit better, but I just use whoever I have 3-star first. And then obviously focus on the Renata. So this won't really change my playstyle that much, but maybe if you're going for some sort of Rebel reroll. There hasn't actually been a Rebel reroll comp, which I'm surprised about because there's so many low-cost Rebel units. Set, Akali are both 2 costs, and then Aurelia and Vex are both 1 cost units. So it is weird that there isn't some sort of like Rebel reroll comp this entire set. I don't think this is enough to make that meta, but you are more than welcome to try if you are feeling a little adventurous. 2 cost units, Camille, AD, bumped up by 3. Yeah, she was kind of forgotten about amongst all the ambushers because both Smeech and Echo, both really good, but Camille not feeling as much love as she used to back in the day. So this buff should help out a lot. Camille and Ziggs are 2 carries that are too niche to pull off. A small sub 10% buff should have them cutting and exploding their way back into the meta. Ziggs' primary ability damage is going to be remaining the same at 1-star, remaining the same at 2-star, but buffed up at 3-star. So they're actually buffing Ziggs reroll, not so much the Dominator path where you use the Ziggs as an item holder and then pivot into something like Silco later on. So that's a little bit important to know because Dominators are obviously pretty mediocre right now. They're not that great, but they could have been stronger if Ziggs was buffed up, which he is, but not in the way that would help like the 6 Dominator comp that much. It still gives you an out option though if you get a ton of Ziggs though. 3 cost units, Gangplank, melee, only as melee buff. That's very important because most people use Gangplank in the backline, but this is going to be lowering his mana by 10, which obviously is a buff because then he can cast faster. Nunu and Willem mana buff. This one's going to be dropped by 25. Okay, so the starting mana dropped by 10, but overall mana dropped by 25. So he's going to be casting a ton. Let's see what they're saying about this here. Potentially the biggest buff of the... Yeah, you could tell from my voice already, if you are able to read that I was like, wow, that's pretty big, right? But it's coming to the smallest kid on the biggest zombie Yeti experiment. Nunu hasn't been able to adequately frontline even when his go-to comps, which are few, come online. Yeah, like the Bruiser Twitch comp where you run experiment and you run Bruiser. First of all, you don't even put Nunu on the experiment hex. You put Mundo on it and Twitch. So he just hasn't had the time to like really be himself. But we'll talk more about Nunu in our learnings article for the set, but for now, take a big mana buff. I don't know if this is gonna make Nunu reroll a thing or anything like that. Actually, it's not that I think. I know it won't make Nunu reroll a thing, but when you do go experiment comps, him as an item holder is gonna work out a lot better before you get Mundo, so expect Twitch comps to do a lot better because of this. Swain, this is only his melee. Heal per second is going to be increased a little bit at 2-star, and a okay amount at 3-star. So this one, not that important. You use Swain melee. Let's think about the comps we use that in. We use that in Black Rose when you add Sorcerer, because you're focused more on the Black Rose units to carry, such as LeBlanc. So you put Swain in the front line. Another comp you use him in is if you're playing Sorcerers, like 6 Sorcerer, but you're going for Zoe carry, you put Swain in the front line. So this is going to help him in those instances. It's not that much though, like heal per second, just 5 health. Obviously any bit helps, but it's not anything groundbreaking, right? But what this does not help is Swain when you make him range, which is what most people play him with. So even though this seems a little counterintuitive, it doesn't actually help his main comp right now, which is the Swain reroll comp where you put him in the back line. It actually hurts it because now that Swain's buffed, maybe other comps will play it a little bit more, and it's going to be harder to hit Swain 3-star. Now onto 4-cost units. Elise buffed, but only her range. It's going to be very dangerous to build your team comp around a ranged Elise because, well, we already saw it. Everyone's playing Elise. There are 2.86 players playing it every single game. So if you're one of them, there's going to be 1.86 other players. So pretty much 2 other players playing Elise that game. So good luck hitting Elise 2-star because, well, it's just going to be hard. Like all the Elises are going to be taken out of the champion pool. But she's getting actually like pretty decent buffs to her damage. We're hoping a backline damage lift for her could open up some Elise carry opportunities, maybe even angles we've yet to see. So I think what this helps out a lot for is if you're going to Black Rose flex and you're going for Sorcerer, you're going for Dominators, you're going for Visionaries as like your flex unit in the backline, like that's going to be Zoe, Heimerdinger, and Silco with the Black Rose base. If you manage to get an Elise 2-star, but none of the other stuff, you could always use Elise as a back range carry. Now, this isn't the best option, but it always has been an option because you got to use what you get, right? So this one buffs that lineup a little more. So if you already have an Elise 2, great, put her in the back line, use her to carry. But if you don't, just ignore this change because you're putting her in the front line. 5-cost units, Jinx Death Rocket AP damage is going to be buffed up at 1 and 2-star. We're giving Jinx's AP ratio a small lift for her final cast so that base Jinx and Spirit Shojin Jinx can pick up a little bit more death into their final rocket. So that means Rebels going to be a bit stronger. Rebels were like on the cusp of greatness. Well, not greatness, on the cusp of like pretty good, whereas I'd say they're more like highly situational of a comp. But with this small buff, considering Jinx is the only unit that matters in Rebel comps other than Alawi, it's actually pretty nice, right? But they're only buffing one aspect of her, which is her AP damage. Like obviously she relies most on the AD damage, but this should be a little bit of an interesting change. I wouldn't say it does that much for her, but obviously every little bit helps. Whenever you launch that giant Jinx rocket and people live with 1 HP, now they won't. Malzahar mana buff is going to be dropped by 5 total mana, so Malzahar in the Visionary builds should be a little bit better. Our Malzahar buff will have an itemless Malzahar casting 1 auto attack sooner every 2 casts, but it'll be even more impactful if you can activate Visionary. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, obviously with Visionaries, you gain more mana whenever you gain mana. So any bit of mana buffs to a Visionary unit is like double, you know? Well, not double, but it's like whatever percentage of the breakdown is for Visionary. Same with the Nunu change. Nunu is also a Visionary. That's why it's like a pretty big change. Are we going to see a bunch of 6 Visionary comps? Because out of all the traits that were like nerfed in the previous patches, 6 Visionary I think was doing one of the worst ones. So if we type at 6, look at the previous patch, and we look at average placement, we have Enforcers, Conquerors, Scrap, Visionary. Yeah, it's pretty down low there because the most comparable comp to this is 6 Sorcerer, which is 4.38 versus 4.07. That's a pretty big difference, right? Because these two traits are pretty much the same. They're both AP comps and they both are 2, 4, 6. So obviously the Visionaries did need a little bit more love, so they're kind of hoping to bring it in line with the Sorcerer comp. I don't think it will be. I think it'll be slightly worse than them still, but definitely welcome buffs, especially since I haven't seen too many Malzahars in recent games. Augments backup speed 10 to 12%, Glass Cannon 1 damage amp 12 to 15%, Mad Chemist Singed ability damage is going to be buffed up across the board. Ooh, nice. Singe is probably going to be back. He was like mediocre in terms of maybe even below average in terms of champion augments, but I think with this buff he's going to be back in. Is it going to be Giga OP? Maybe not, but it's going to be at least good. Forbidden Magic AD per stack 2% to 3%, HP 10 to 15, traits Sisters Jinx attack speed buff 75 to 80%, Sisters both buff duration 7 to 10 seconds. That's going to help out Rebels a lot. I see people taking this in Rebels because you just need Jinx. It's not so much that you care about Vi, it's mainly just because you need that copy of Jinx. Glorious Evolution Victor upgrades required 6 to 4. That's actually a big change. This makes it a lot easier to get the Victor because you don't need to upgrade 2 units, which is pretty difficult to do sometimes, right? Golden Egg, some of the loot value tables have increased in value. Wand Overflow attack speed speed per rod 1%. What you really are, this is the Warwick augment. Player damage required is 35 to 20. What you really are, double up player damage required 20 to 12. Okay, and now, oh, so few bug fixes. I thought there were a bunch. Scrap treasure, scrap units holding Iranian Thieves gloves count as holding 2 items, not 6. Mana gain from post mitigation damage can no longer overflow, and lucky bench warmers, lucky gloves now works on bench units. So you could actually drop the gloves on your bench units and see what they get. That's gonna be fun times. I don't know how that worked before. Maybe it gave them just random units or something like that. So looking at the overall changes, how is this gonna affect the meta? Well, it's definitely gonna affect it. Is it gonna absolutely change the meta? Not really, because the changes weren't that big, but they did buff a lot of different stuff. I'm gonna be expecting, obviously in ambushers, you're gonna be able to have a lot more flexible paths. Like I've seen some people play and they have like, they're going for Smeech reroll, but they get a ton of Camille's, but they're just skipping Camille's because they know that the Camille comp isn't that great. Maybe it's good enough to do that now. So if you do get that out, you could go for Camille. She uses pretty much the same items anyways, and you'll be perfectly fine. Vex doesn't do anything. Conqueror, well, who goes Conqueror, right? It's very rare to do that. If you play 20 games, you might not even have a game of Conqueror. Ziggs reroll, same thing, but if you're playing Dominators and you happen to get a ton of Ziggs, that's gonna help you out a little bit. Gangplank, who cares? Nunu, Twitch becomes better. I think Twitch was doing decent in terms of forecast before, but like not quite like the best forecast. He was like on the cusp. We could type 4 here. Look at play rate. I like looking at play rate the most versus average placement for Twitch, but yeah, he's towards the bottom, right? In terms of play rate, if we look at average placement, he's gonna be in the middle. So yeah, obviously there are going to be better damage units than him. The Nunu buff is going to help him out a bunch. Swain, if you're playing Sorks and using him as a tank, is going to help you a little bit. For reroll Swain in the backline, going to hurt you because other people are going to be playing Swain a bit more. Elise, who cares? We play her in the front line in 99% of cases, but in that off chance you're playing Black Rose, you could put her in the backline as a item holder before you get a better carry. Jinx, Rebel should be helped out a bit, but they buffed like the worst part of her kit, so even though it is a buff, it's not by that much because she's more of an attack damage champion rather than AP. And then Malzahar, hopefully Visionary's back. Of course, I'll be releasing the meta snapshot on Friday as per usual, but let me know what comps you think are going to be rocking in the next patch. Again, this comes out on March 5th, and I hope to see you all in my next video.